Well, good evening, everybody. It's Chris here from the Whistle Stop Cafe in Mirror, Alberta. I just got my copy of Clifford Sifton Volume 2, The Lonely Eminence, 1901 to 1929. Very interesting book. Now, I've quoted out of this book many times at different events. And when I say quote, I guess I should say paraphrase because I could never remember it. Clifford Sifton was the Minister of the Interior in the late 1800s, early 1900s in Canada here. I'm going to read an excerpt from this. This is from a speech that Sifton gave in Winnipeg in 1904, roughly 16 months before Alberta and Saskatchewan were created and became part of the Confederation. Now, after I read you this, I'm going to give you my opinion on the Olds-Three Hills Didsbury by-election that's coming up, and actually all three by-elections. And I'm going to tell you a few things and share some thoughts with you that will very likely end up with me losing some friends. But that's okay. I'm going to tell you anyway. But first, let me read this to you. So this is on page 95 of Volume 2, A Lonely Eminence. It should be added that Sifton's view of the future development of the Prairie West was largely agricultural. He would have liked to see the tariff encourage, quote, the establishment of some small industries in the Northwest, end quote. But there is no doubt that he believed that central Canada would remain the industrial heartland. And this is from his speech. Quote, we all desire, every patriotic Canadian desires, he told a Winnipeg audience in 1904, that the great trade of the prairie shall go to enrich our own people in the East, to build up the factories and the workshops of Eastern Canada, and to contribute in every legitimate way to its prosperity. Now again, that is page 95, Clifford Sifton, Volume 2, The Lonely Eminence, 1901 to 1929. And as I mentioned before, Clifford Sifton was the Minister of the Interior, largely responsible for settling the West. That kind of really lets the cat out of the bag, that quote from that speech, that Central Canada, Eastern Canada, has always seen the West as resource colonies. Which is why, one of the many reasons why, it is so important that we hold in Alberta a referendum on independence. We need to educate people as to why we need that referendum, the rationale behind it, and the benefits of Alberta independence, and we need to move on it. On to the by-election. So I've spoken at a couple events in that CA over the last couple weeks. I have done a couple podcasts with Cam Davies, the leader of the Republican Party of Alberta. No, that has nothing to do with the United States, nothing to do with 51st State. The party is called the Republican Party of Alberta because they believe that Alberta should be a constitutional republic unto itself. Something that some of you don't know is the reason I reached out to Cam in the first place wasn't because I was supportive of the idea of this party and him running in the by-election. As a matter of fact, it was exactly the opposite. I didn't like the idea. I didn't like that there was another party with a seemingly, as I thought before, disgruntled individual with a axe to grind with Danielle in the UCP. But I figured, I better talk to this guy and find out for myself. And the idea was, when I went into the podcast, I was not on board with the idea of Cam running. And it was his opportunity to change my mind. And he did. And it wasn't just because, I want to stick it to the government or stick it to the UCP or anything like that. I came to a realization a few weeks ago after having some conversations with people, within our United Conservative Party, kind of paying attention to what's going on and watching what was happening around me, that we need something different. I'm not saying that we need to topple the government. I'm saying we need some balance. Most of you won't know this. Some of you do. But ever since things went really, ever since the independence movement accelerated in Alberta, Smith has been not quite as supportive as I would have anticipated. As a matter of fact, it became known to me that she was actively preventing independence-minded candidates from running in by-elections. The provincial board was told that no candidates who were separatists or independence-minded Albertans were to be on ballots. Now, I don't agree with that at all. I think it should be up to the people. They should decide. And they should have decided. When there was no input, there wasn't a nomination process in Olds-Didsbury-Three Hills. The Premier appointed somebody to run in that area. Now that person does not believe in the idea of Alberta independence. And this is a problem. Danielle Smith has given Prime Minister Mark Carney a list of demands that she wants to preserve national unity. And none of those things are bad. They would all be good for Alberta, but there's a very, very big problem. None of them address the root cause of our issues. They're all band-aids. They're all treatment of symptoms rather than the underlying disease. None of those demands will fix anything. They may offer some relief to Alberta for a time. We might see some prosperity from them if they happen. But the reality is, it won't change anything. For over 150 years, we've been doing the same thing over and over and over in Alberta. We've been trying to elect politicians that fix things and save us. And they throw out these scraps to us, these little pieces of grain. And we come running back to them thinking that everything is going to be okay. Oh, if only Danielle Smith gets the tanker ban lifted, we're going to be okay. Well, what about the next time? What about the incoming legislation from Parliament that says the government can read your mail or spy on your cell phone? It doesn't fix any of that. It doesn't remove the ability of the federal government to landlock our resources. Alberta is a landlocked province. And not only are we landlocked right now, but we're policy locked because the federal government prevents us from moving our resources to Tidewater for whatever reason they want. By 2030, according to Prime Minister Carney, you won't be able to buy a gas-powered vehicle. You'll have to drive an electric car. Now, I don't have a problem with electric cars at all. As a matter of fact, I want one for myself. But I'm also going to have a great big huge diesel truck because that's what I want to drive. Our federal government doesn't want that. They want you to be squarely put in your little enviro-activism box, give up your prosperity, and be happy. Probably while owning nothing. What the Premier is doing right now, standing up to Ottawa, standing up to the elbows up, if we really are, is not going to fix anything. I attended the debate in Olds. I listened to what the UCP candidate Tara Sawyer had to say, and I was thoroughly unimpressed. As a matter of fact, by the end of the evening, I was convinced that she should not win. Somebody else should win. I'm not sure who's giving her her talking points, but you may have noticed, as I did, that it was largely based on fear. I heard her say that Danielle Smith is fighting an aggressive Liberal government and trying to fix the problems the Liberal government have created over the last few years, and only as a united Conservative Party can we do these things. And if you split the vote, you might end up with an NDP government. That was a fear tactic. Whoever's giving her talking points thinks you're stupid. They do. They really think you're stupid. Three Hills, Olds-Didsbury, has a mathematic probability of 0 of electing an NDP MLA. By going with the last election numbers, you could split the Conservative vote 3 times and they would still win. That's how little support the NDP has there. And yet the main talking point of the UCP candidate is be fearful of an NDP government. Stay in your lane, make sure we're united, even though we're not going to fix the problems, and just vote for me because we need to be united. That's completely false. That riding, that CA, is likely one of the only ones that could elect an individual who would say and do things to benefit this province and not risk anything to do with an NDP government. Speaking of which, you might have realized this by now, as I have. We didn't lose that election to the NDP a few years back because of vote splitting. We lost it because the Conservative government became so arrogant and egotistical that Conservatives just couldn't even stomach going out to vote. They didn't go and vote. That's why the NDP won. They did things like ignore their base. They did things like try and pander to people who were never going to vote for them. And they paid a very, very heavy price for it. And so did you, and so did I, and so did the rest of the province. Vote splitting is not a problem in Three Hills, Olds-Didsbury at all. The only problem is that our UCP government, of which, I'm a member of the UCP. I've booked my AGM ticket. I've been very supportive in the past, and I'm actually going to let the cat out of the bag on a few things that they kind of swindled me on. But I don't think they should win. As a matter of fact, I know 100% for certain that the UCP should not win a seat in Three Hills, Olds-Didsbury. In that CA, I pray that they elect an individual who will use his voice in the legislature to promote the idea of Alberta independence, to call out these failings of our current government, such as the demands, the 9 or 10 demands that don't actually fix the problem. And they could actually do it. One of the reasons why I've decided to talk about these things is the Alberta Bill of Rights. You might remember that just before the last AGM, the UCP put out the revised Alberta Bill of Rights. There's a lot of talk about it because it put a Section 1-esque clause, much like the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, that gave the government the ability to limit your rights in the Bill of Rights. And I said, no, that's not right. You can't. You're going backwards, not forwards. You're giving the government more power, not less. I wrote a big essay on it. I sent it to a bunch of ministers and MLAs and the Premier. A bunch of us made a big fuss about it. And finally, I got word from a few MLAs that, don't worry, Chris, there won't be a Section 1 clause in there. The Bill of Rights will be intact. It's going to be good. I took them at their word, and I said that people should support the Premier because she was protecting our rights. She was acknowledging our rights. And then what was passed was the exact opposite. I have friends within the current government. I have friends that are staffers. I have other friends that were on board and aligned with most of what we want to do, in particular with an independent Alberta. Some of them have jobs now. Some of them have some of them aren't willing to bite the hand that feeds them. So they're willing to support the same old status quo bullshit that we've seen before. Some of the fiercest freedom warriors that we had when we were busy getting Jason Kenney, my friend Jason, fired. Very outspoken, critical of the government, wanted to do the right thing, now remain silent. Some even miss their lunch dates with me, which is a little bit insulting. But they're getting paid. Now, it's very likely, with the way I don't hold back about these things, that I will never be paid by the government. I might be paid by you as an elected representative someday. Certainly not anytime soon. But I probably won't ever be paid by the government. Because I can't look past that stuff. And by the way, that procurement scandal that they're trying to say is, it's nothing, we didn't do anything wrong, that's going to blow up in their faces. Now, I will stand by my previous statements that the Premier is a good person and she really wants what's best for this province. But I think what's happened over the past 2 years, I think the machine has done what the machine does. And it's trapped some people. It's prevented them from speaking the truth. It's prevented them from doing what they know is right. I think there's some things that happened with our current government that came as a surprise to our Premier, but also put her in a position where she couldn't do anything about it. Now that's speculation, but it's based on conversations that I've had with people that are close to the situation. And I think it's going to be a problem. If you are supportive of Danielle and the UCP, it might be in your best interest to put another party representative in the legislature. I think there's a lot of good people in government that need help. There are people in our current government that need someone unshackled, able to say whatever they want in the legislature on record. We need that. If Three Hills elects a UCP MLA who will be a backbencher, they won't get that. If they elect an individual who can truly represent them, free to speak his mind, they're going to get better representation than most of the ridings here. The only one that gets would get better representation is probably Medicine Hat. Another thing, one of the things that I learned about politics, even within our conservative parties, is that it's a dirty pool. There have been many nomination processes where people run against good people simply to pull votes away and split, even though I don't believe in vote splitting. They pull votes away from good candidates who would make a difference because the machine doesn't want that. That happened to my friend Rick Strankman. That happened here in Lacombe-Ponoka. And I think that's happening right now in Three Hills, Olds-Didsbury. I think the UCP has influenced another party to run a candidate to split or pull votes away from another candidate. If you look at who's running, you'll see that there are two very strong candidates. Cam Davies with the Alberta Republican Party and Tara Sawyer, who is the UCP candidate. And if you've been paying attention at all, you'll see that Tara really isn't seen much without Danielle Smith. And we all love Danielle, right? So by extension, we should love Tara and vote for her, right? I don't agree with that at all. But those are the two frontrunners. Now there's another candidate who is with the Wild Rose Loyalty Coalition. It is a statistical impossibility for him to win that seat. It cannot happen. It won't happen. There isn't a snowball's chance in hell. Now, the Wild Rose Independence Party and the Wild Rose Loyalty Coalition, they had problems. They imploded. It was a nasty scene, and they pretty much put themselves into irrelevance. So why would they run a candidate against someone who has an actual shot at winning that seat and bringing the conversation of Alberta independence into the legislature? If Wild Rose actually believed in an independent Alberta and believed in the cause, they would not be running a candidate there. And even they know that. But if you look at some of the people who are involved, you'll find out they're close to our premier. Now, this is all just speculation. But if I was the premier and I wanted to make sure that my candidate that I hand selected would win, I would maybe call in a favor from a friend or two. And I would ask them to run a candidate there so they could pull votes away from another candidate. If you've watched my podcasts with Cam Davies, you'll understand why I'm hoping that he wins. I really do. There's some interesting history with Cam and the UCP. We talk about it on the podcast. And if you really listen, and you listen without being influenced by what the media tells you or told you, you'll understand why what happened to him happened. You can't make a mistake in politics or not cover your ass and then get burnt and talk about it and not burn bridges. Some of the things that Cam discussed during that fallout from the Kenny leadership race was pretty damning. And you know what? We all knew. We all heard the stories. We all knew what Cam said had happened. We knew that Kenny had cheated. And we didn't care. Why didn't we care? Because we were so scared of the NDP. We just needed Jason Kenney to get in there and parachute into Alberta and save us. Well, apparently, a man that would be willing to cheat on a leadership race and legit get caught for it also would be willing to be a complete tyrant, lie to us for 3 years, lock us in our homes, chain churches shut, fence churches shut, chain restaurants shut. And now he's back on the internet sharing my stuff, thank you, but also back to his old mischievous lying ways. What a machine. So here's my message to Olds-Three Hills, Didsbury. You guys have a chance to make a real difference and advance the cause of Alberta independence. As Premier Smith said, it's a no-brainer. It is a no-brainer that Alberta needs to get out from under Confederation. There is no other way to fix the things that are wrong. There's no other way to right the wrongs. There is no other way to get out from tyrannical legislation that's trying to be rammed through Parliament right now. If ever there was a time to get this done, it's now. And Three Hills, you guys can do that. You can move the needle single-handedly with one by-election. You can put somebody in the legislature that's going to speak these truths. You can put someone in the legislature that's going to challenge the premier on her. Let's just give the new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, some time. Let's give him 6 months. He can challenge her on the list of demands that don't actually fix anything for Alberta. And he can also help give her the spine and the backbone to speak the truth herself. Because right now, I don't think there's many people in the legislature that would do that for her. Yeah, sure, with some frivolous bills or whatever, but not when it comes to Alberta independence. I want to see someone in there that knows what this is about, challenging her across the floor. And Olds-Three Hills, Didsbury, if you have a MLA like that, they can truly represent you, free of the shackles of any kind of corruption that's going on right now, free of a party whip, free of party politics of the governing party, completely able to speak the truth on your behalf. The UCP candidate cannot. Even if that's the will of the people, which I know it is. Those conversations are forbidden. So, I hope you really think about this, and I hope you're willing to set aside any kind of, petty's not the word, any kind of small grievances you have about, a personality or something like that. And think about the big picture. Think about what you could do for the province by electing an independence-minded candidate to the legislature, just like what was done in the early 80s. I'm very excited to see the results. Anyway, have a great night, everybody. And, no pressure. I mean, the world's going to shit, and Alberta could be the starting point of stopping it. We could literally reshape the face of Western civilization simply by withdrawing from Confederation and allowing reality to slap the rest of Canada back into reality so that they stopped with this anti-human globalist bullshit. Or whatever. We could just fear the NDP and vote in unity with something that's not going to do a damn thing for you. I don't know. I know what I would do. What are you going to do? Good night.